going to tell you about two men. The first man came to see me every week for more than 10 years. He told me of virtually every turning point in his life. A lifetime of 78 years. Married 3 times, and as he was dying, he said he wished he'd married a 4th time. He said he could not remember much about his first 3 wives, but he would have liked to have taken the 4th. But they'd all treated him well, he said. He had 7 children, and they all were very fond of him. He said, perhaps I'm lucky. I don't have any bad memories, and I hope no one has any bad memories of me. The second man I had not seen for 30 years. And as he sat in front of me, he began to tell me about himself, where he'd been. Now, it was as if he had seen me just 2 days before. 30 years had passed, and I immediately recognized his gestures. I remembered the names of his family without him telling me, and I was quickly recalling incidents that he'd told me of 30 years ago. But from time to time, I'm shocked, a little shocked. Over the years, I've trained my memory to be fairly precise in certain areas of observation and detail. And yet I discover, to my shock, that I don't remember the person who saw me perhaps 2 weeks ago. A large part of my life is committed to listening, remembering, recalling, and in large measure, I'm successful at it. But then someone over there somewhere will say, I told you this 3 times. Are you listening? Are you hard of hearing? 3 times I've told you. Are you losing it? And I wonder, what is it that I might be losing? But before I go much further, I then stop, because a week or so ago, I emerged from my usual supermarket on Saturday mornings to find someone had stolen my car. No, they hadn't. I just couldn't find it. I was sure I'd parked it right here. I always parked it in this line. And as I was looking backwards and forwards, I couldn't find it. In fact, as I actually approached one car, thinking it was my car, but the door wouldn't open, so I then realized it wasn't my car. So my mind spun around. Where did I leave it? I was sure it was in this section. Just then, a middle-aged woman apparently recognized my state and very kindly asked me, was anything wrong? Anything wrong? Someone's stolen my car. But she said, well, can I help? Well, with some embarrassment, I told her my predicament. And she asked, well, what sort of a car is it? And I said, it's a black car. And she immediately, and we both had a problem. Right there in front of us were 120 black cars. Then a younger man, younger than me anyway, joined us, saw our predicament, and he said, is it a big car or a little car? I was a little reluctant to tell him what was the make of the car, but then I had to say what the make of the car was. And he said, it's over here. So more people then joined to look at what we were all talking about. And fortunately, no one asked me in all this kerfuffle, no one paused, as you would expect, no one paused to say, where did you leave it? Because as you'd understand, if I knew where I'd left it, I wouldn't be looking for it. But that's often the case, that when I find that I've lost something, some of my staff or some of my family will say, well, where did you leave it? Whew. So no one asked. No one asked, were you driving the car or did you walk today? They were very considerate. Well, eventually we found the car exactly, of course, where I left it. You see, normally I park it in front of the bakery. But on this particular morning, the bakery spots were all full. So that day I parked it in front of the butcher's shop. Well, nobody parks their car in front of the butcher's shop. We all park, obviously, in front of the baker's shop. And there it was. Now, I will forgive any one of you who are just about to say, oh, I think he's losing it. And so I might be. But I also happen to know that when I was 42 years of age, I had exactly the same experience. So it may be that I'm not losing it. There may be another explanation. You see, how many times have you said, I could have sworn I left my car keys, right against that flower pot. And then somebody says, no, you didn't, you left them in the bathroom. Here they are. Exactly where you left them. One of the most important aspects of being a human being is to have a mind and a memory in good working shape. So in this address today, I'd like to focus on this matter. I'm not going to say how to keep your memory in working order, because I know that you've already been reading in the papers and the magazines and the journals and the self-help books how to keep your mind and memory in good order. I can tell you they're no good, but you will go on reading them. I know. So rather than taking you down that fairly pointless track, I shall speak of how we might manage our memory differently, and how important it is to have certain markers, certain milestones, certain memorials that will tell us where we've been, what's important to us, what we honour as part of the character and enrichment of our culture. So we've got events and our memories of those events, and they can become just like a traffic jam in your head. Events and the memories. This doctor in America, New York, Elkhonen Goldberg, has written a book called The New Executive Brain. It's the big thing at the moment, although we've been talking about it often for many years. The new executive brain. It means to have a brain that's in shape to make the necessary decisions, the appropriate decisions at the appropriate time in the appropriate place. Now, we often don't do that. We can be all over the place, and the executive brain has given up, gone to sleep, done something, gone into a mess, and we're ineffective. But with memory well focused, we can then bring together a much more coherent life. Some events and memories are just like a traffic jam. This occurs and then chaos follows. How do we sort out the event from the chaos? Some memories may be stored and never recalled. Do you know that? They're there, they're waiting. But other memories are over here, highly active. Without those memories, Dr. Atkinson couldn't have played the organ today. I couldn't operate here. The person who came to remind me to turn on the light, he too would have forgotten. Memory is very important. A memory today is affected by memories of yesterday. Memories become then loaded with emotion, feelings. Memories then take on different meanings from what they were when they first occurred. It was just an event. But now it's got an emotion on top of it, and we've added on top of that a meaning to it. And before long, we've added to the meaning our mood. So memories, emotion, meaning and mood. The mood can be one of joy, or it can be one of gloom, it can be one of happiness, or indeed it can be one of helplessness. Memories can be then affected by imagination and by inspiration. You saw it this week if you followed the Melbourne Cup. Imagination and inspiration all exploded in front of us. The jockey of the winner, some people got all mixed up. In fact, wasn't it great that she was a woman? Yeah, that's good, but the really critical thing was not noticed. She said every ride she takes, she knows her mother is watching her. Now, her mother was killed when the jockey was 6 months old, if I read the story aright. So the memory of her mother, she had no memory of her mother, but she imagines the memory of her mother, what her mother would have been like, and what her mother would have said to protect her or to encourage her. That imagining of the memory from the past is so powerful. And so we recall it like that. So much depends on the meaning, and the imagined meaning we load on the memory. Now, in the Old Testament reading I took today, it says they erected stones in the river to mark the journey that they had taken. And they gave these stones meaning. These stones meant this was the way that higher presence, that higher power, their God, had been leading them. That's what they thought. And they said, and it was said to them, in days to come, when your children, when your descendants ask, what do these stones mean? Be ready to tell them. So today we're setting aside our memorials in this church, as it were, the stones in place, by which we're remembering important people who are important to us. And so we could so easily say, oh, it's just a plaque. But each plaque carries a name. Each plaque carries a meaning. Each plaque carries some overt or hidden emotion. So when people come and say, well, what do these things mean? Tell them. These plaques, these stones are invested with good feelings. They are invested with the faith of a community of people. They speak to the past, they speak to the present, and they're signposts for how we might live in the future, how future generations will regard this sacred place. Memories of events back there, memories of external events, past events. Memories can hold little significance, or they can be invested with meaning, with emotion, with moods, with imagination. Did you get that? That's how powerful it can be. That's part of our makeup as human beings. We just take everything for granted until we stop and say, our memories and our memorials can be invested with meaning and with emotion and with moods and imagination, with what it means to be a human being. Memories can be loaded with good thoughts, or they can be loaded with so many negatives that we can get marooned in the past by those past anger, resentment, unforgiveness, unsuccessful paybacks. All were set on revenge. Somewhere there, one day, I'll get my own back. Someday they'll get their comeuppance. There comes the need to do something about our distressing memories. The mind is loaded with emotion, and they have an impact upon us. Impact upon the self, the inner self, the social self, our self with each other, the outer self, the larger self, and the huge family and cultural belonging that we have. Now, you can easily get lost. Our memories can get so lost that we become part of a cultural ignorance, a cultural clumsiness. We don't know how to handle our memories, the good memories or our bad memories. So the memory sits there, the bad memory can just sit there. Like the dog, the angry dog waiting for someone to pass by. Just sits there. Maybe it does more than that. Maybe your memory is sitting there smouldering away. Or maybe it runs into some person who has a bag load of what I call psychological stupidity. And so they tell you how you have certain things wrong with your memory. You've got a blocked memory, you've got a false memory, you've got all that stupidity that took over a few years ago. Let's put it aside and recognize that some of our memories have a lot of suffering attached to them. A lot of sadness attached to them. Real sadness, real suffering. And in it all, you see, some of our memories have just got a lot of stuff. It's like your kitchen cupboards, full of stuff. Our memory can be like that. We don't know why we've got it all there. It's all pushed in there, jammed in, stuff. Oh, one day we'll pull it out, pull one out. Say, look at this. Do you remember this? I hope someone will say, well, for God's sake, put it back. We don't want to talk. Close the door. Now, some have called on their religion to help them. Sometimes that's helped. Others have found their religion has been singularly unhelpful. Fact. Memory, however, is central to everything. What you did, what you said. Last week, 25 years ago. Where were you 70 years ago? Memory is so important to your health, your relationships, the things you did today, the things you did yesterday. Memory. I can't remember. When you've lost that memory, you can't remember. That can be very dangerous and it can be very frightening. Your memory is always there. It's been part of, in fact, it has been part of your religion from how long? Jesus said, "This do in remembrance of me." Or when your children say to you, "What mean you by these stones, these symbols, these memorials?" you will tell them. This was the way I took. This was somebody who was important to me. This person did something for me. One of the persistent concerns is the management of those toxic memories, distressing memories, destructive memories. And we have difficulty accepting that punishment that we meter out or the courts meter out does not erase the distressing memory, does not neutralize our negative emotions, indeed may increase those negative emotions and that destructiveness. There are several steps that we could take, but I suppose we won't take them. We find ways to change the meaning of the memory. We find ways to lessen the emotional loading on the memory. We close off the toxicity, the toxins, the toxic emotions. We close off all the associated behavior of bad memories. We start to identify and practice positive mental management. Is that possible? We set in place our good memorials, our good memories, and we practice reshaping our life, drawing on good memories, drawing into our life good emotions. Reshape lessons, remember. Our memories can be released from destructiveness, from grief, from sadness. Some memories are like suppurating wounds. They continue to exude their pus into life. But those memories, many of those negative memories, need to be sealed off. You might say you can't forget, but you can finish recalling them. You can finish reinvesting them with more poison. You can finish revisiting them. You can finish rehearsing them. You can finish re-emotionalizing them. You can finish drowning yourself and others in the rivers of bad emotions, bad memories. Everyone's life journey will have marks of sadness, tragedy, and grief. We're all carrying the marks of our mortality. But imagine placing stones in the river, memorials, if you like, in your life. Stones that will tell you the good days. Oh yes, the good events. Oh yes, the good memories. They're more valid. The bad memories are past. The good memories are here, and they can take you into the future. They're better. Yes, you have our memories. We have our memories. But we can construct good memories. We can make pathways towards our memorials. All very important, that will enrich our life so that we will become carriers of a good presence, of good memories. And in that way, we help change the lives of many. So today in St. Michael's, here in the city of Melbourne, we have sealed names of certain people in place on the various pillars of this church. In the future, we will place more names there. But today, we know these names are in place, here installed in this historic and sacred place. People whose names are meaningful to us as a church, but to individuals within our wide community. People who carried a good light in our time. Their names on the pillar of this sacred place will be there for years to come. And in that continuity of memory and meaning, we can all be engaged. We not only remember them, we can do something more. Each pillar carrying the name, each pillar has invested with some meaning, invested with a memory, identified as people who took something from life and gave something to life. In various ways, they carried a torch of inspiration. The torch might not have burnt brightly, very brightly, but just a small light with some of them, just a small light. Inspiration. And these memorials will remind all of us of that possibility that each one of us can carry a light. These memorials are symbols, external as they are, but they carry our internal, individual, and communal indebtedness. They are invested with deeper personal gratitude because of the influence they had on us in the past and for their continual influence in the future. Memorials are visible constructions out there, but they can become they become intertwined in all their importance with our mind and our personality in the present. To remind all who come here that in our time we honoured the immensity of evolution, history and civilization, and of our short moment in that vast immensity. So today, therefore, We honour the place and the power of good memories. We honour the power and importance of good memorials. With the best imagination of our minds, we invest them with good emotions, the most expansive and generous mood, as they were important in the past. We now, by their names in this place, give them importance in the present as we surround them with gratitude and affirmation. So when people ask you, what do these memorials mean? You will tell them. They were the sons and daughters of the past. They were the parents, the fathers and mothers of the past. They were the brothers and sisters of the past, our past. But in our time we gave them meaning and importance. Their names are invested with a good memory. They're part of our corporate inspiration. They've lifted us all into the imagining of the immensity of human evolution and civilization, of which each one of us are a part. And so we carry today our internal indebtedness and our outward expression of gratitude for their influence, for the presence that they brought to each one of us and to all of us, and for that enriching memory. Memories are so important, not only for each one of us, but for the whole body of people as we gather in a place like this. Gratitude, faith, and hope for the future. Would you please stand? So let me give the blessing for this day. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep carrying you forwards. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.